grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And sometimes, war demands more than victory. Sometimes, it demands annihilation. Above the world of Typhon Primaris, 300 Imperial warships hold formation in the cold void. Cathedral ships of destruction bearing the aquila of humanity's dying empire. Their weapons are not merely instruments of conquest. They are sacraments of extinction. Each vessel carries ordnance blessed by the ecclesiarchy, consecrated by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and authorized by the Inquisition's most terrible decree, Exterminatus, the word that burns worlds, the judgment that cannot be appealed, the mercy that arrives as fire. The planet below turns in silence, unaware it has already been condemned. 15 billion citizens pray to the Emperor for deliverance, not knowing that deliverance has taken the form of their own extinction. The Imperium does not save worlds through salvation. It saves them through sacrifice, the sacrifice of everything that made them worth saving. In a chamber that officially does not exist, Inquisitor Lord Hector Vale stands before the stellar cartography that maps 17 sectors of Imperial space. His shadow falls across worlds whose names will be erased from histories that will never be written. The hololithic projection shows Typhon Primaris in luminous detail, its hive cities marked in gold, its industrial zones in red, its agricultural sectors in green. But beneath the surface data, corruption metrics pulse with sickly light. Chaos cult activity, 87% population penetration. Warp anomalies, exponentially increasing. Demonic manifestations, confirmed across 3 continents. The planet is not dying. It is becoming something else. Something that wears humanity's face while serving powers that hunger for extinction. Inquisitor Vale has served 43 years, burning heretics and purging corrupted sectors with methodical precision. But he has never authorized Exterminatus. The weight cannot be measured in human lives. It must be calculated in souls. 15 billion souls whose prayers will be answered with fire. He speaks without ceremony, without hesitation, without the luxury of doubt. By the authority vested in me by the God Emperor of mankind, I declare. Exterminatus upon Typhon Primaris. Let the planet burn. Let its people be cleansed through flame. In the bowels of the flagship Righteous Fury, the cathedral hangar stretches across 2 kilometers of sanctified deck space. Here, extinction's instruments receive their final benedictions. Tech priests and ecclesiarchy cardinals work in synchronized ritual. One faction blessing the machine spirits, the other blessing the destruction they will deliver. Cardinal Matthias raises his crozier above a cyclonic torpedo that towers 3 stories high. Its surface bears prayers carved by penitent scribes who died completing their sacred work. The warhead contains viral payloads capable of consuming all organic life on a continental scale. By the Emperor's will, we sanctify this weapon, Cardinal Matthias intones. Let it carry his judgment to the unworthy. Let it cleanse the tainted. Let it purify through annihilation. 300 cyclonic torpedoes, 17 atmospheric incinerators, 42 virus bombs carrying strains so virulent they reduce human flesh to corrosive sludge within seconds. Each weapon blessed, each weapon sanctified, each transformed from mere ordnance into a sacrament of righteous destruction. Outside, servitors load the blessed weapons with mechanical reverence. They do not understand what they carry. Understanding is reserved for those who must bear the weight of such decisions. The first virus bombs enter Typhon Primaris' atmosphere at 1300 hours. They make no sound as they fall. Imperial citizens below see only bright streaks, that might be meteors. Some make wishes, others pray for deliverance. Both prayers are answered with fire. The detonations begin in the upper atmosphere, viral payloads spreading through jet streams with engineered precision. From orbit, it resembles a planet exhaling toxic breath, green and orange clouds blooming across continents like flowers of annihilation. The virus moves faster than evacuation protocols, faster than quarantine procedures, faster than human comprehension of mortality itself. Fleet Admiral Quarren watches from the bridge, his face illuminated by hellish light. He has commanded fleets in 43 engagements. He has watched millions die in the Emperor's service. But he has never watched 15 billion souls extinguished in an hour. The virus works with terrifying efficiency. Human tissue dissolves, releasing corrosive compounds that spread infection further. Within minutes, hive cities become charnel houses. Within hours, continents become graveyards. The planet's oceans boil with decomposing biomass. The atmosphere itself becomes toxic. But the virus is only the first phase. The second phase requires fire. 10,000 light-years distant, on Forge World Griffon 4, the Adeptus Mechanicus tends the sacred duty of crafting extinction. The Forge Temple of Annihilation stretches across 50 square kilometers, a cathedral to destruction where tech priests worship through creation. Fabricator Locum Zerath oversees production lines where cyclonic torpedoes take shape from materials blessed at every manufacturing stage. The promethium comes from wells consecrated by Martian cardinals. The adamantium casings are forged in furnaces whose fires have burned 3,000 years. The viral compounds are synthesized in laboratories where every molecule is catalogued and prayed over. This is not mere weapons manufacturing. This is theology expressed through engineering. Each torpedo represents the Omnissiah's will made manifest. Technology so advanced, it becomes indistinguishable from divine judgment. The tech priests move with augmetic precision, mechanical limbs performing tasks that would kill unaugmented humans. They have shed humanity piece by piece in service to the machine god, becoming perfect instruments for crafting weapons that unmake worlds. The forge never sleeps. The machines never stop. Today's quota: 42 cyclonic torpedoes, 17 atmospheric incinerators, 300 virus bombs. Some will deploy within weeks. Others will wait in blessed storage for centuries. Fleet Admiral Marcus Quarren stands before the observation viewport, watching Typhon Primaris burn. Flames are reflected in his polished armor, orange and black patterns dancing across ceramite like visible accusations. He has not moved from this position in 3 hours. He may never move again. This is his 6th Exterminatus, the 6th world he has watched die on his orders. The 6th time he calculated that 15 billion lives are acceptable payment for the Imperium's survival. Each previous order came easier than the last, a fact that disturbs him more than the orders themselves. After the first Exterminatus on Dalthus Prime, he spent 17 days in meditation. By the 3rd, his meditation lasted only 3 days. By the 5th, he no longer required the chaplain's reassurance. But tonight is different. Tonight he cannot stop seeing their faces in the flames. Imagine citizens whose names he will never know, whose lives he ended without trial. They trusted the Imperium to protect them. They prayed for salvation. Their reward was annihilation from the sky they considered holy. His tactical officers maintain duties around him, preparing reports that will reduce this atrocity to acceptable statistics. They do not disturb his vigil. They understand that command requires bearing invisible weights. Tomorrow, he will file his report. The day after, new orders. Somewhere, Another world slides toward corruption. Another Inquisitor makes another impossible decision. In the final moments, citizens of Typhon Primaris gather in the Cathedral of the Emperor's Light ruins. 3,000 souls who survived the viral bombardment huddle beneath Gothic arches that stood 6 millennia. The ceiling is gone, torn by firestorms. Through the opening, they see the sky itself burning. Preacher Mordecai stands at the altar, vestments singed, face blackened by smoke, leading prayers barely audible over approaching flames. The Emperor protects. Though we walk through Death's Valley, he guides us. Though fire consumes the world, his light endures. The congregation responds with voices hoarse from screaming, "The Emperor protects." They do not understand why this happens. The Inquisition's investigation was conducted in secret. The chaos cults that justified this operated in shadows these faithful never penetrated. They are not heretics or traitors, simply citizens who committed the crime of existing on a world corruption claimed. Sister Evangeline of the Adeptus Sororitas kneels among them, her power armor scorched. She could have evacuated. Her armor detected bombardment patterns and calculated safe extraction routes. But looking at these faithful servants who had done nothing to deserve this fate, she made a different choice. She stayed. "Sister," a young man asks, pale with radiation sickness, "are we being punished?" She wants to tell him truth, that he did nothing wrong, that this serves purposes beyond understanding, but she cannot steal his faith in final moments. "The Emperor tests us," she says gently. "Through this test, we prove devotion." Launch bay. Omega-7 opens its massive doors to the void, revealing the burning world through blessed adamantium frames. Within, cyclonic torpedo designation Judgment 742 rests in its cradle, surrounded by tech priests performing final rituals. The torpedo is 15 meters long, surface inscribed with prayers in 17 languages, each a benediction, a curse, a statement of absolute authority. Its core contains destructive force to trigger tectonic collapse across an entire hemisphere. This weapon is designed to murder geology itself. Tech Adept Korvax interfaces directly with the torpedo's machine spirit through neural cables. He experiences the weapon's awakening as his own consciousness stirring, targeting systems online, guidance protocols engaging, warhead achieving perfect harmony. "Machine spirit acknowledged," Korvax announces in binary. "May the Omnissiah guide this instrument to sacred purpose." The Launchmaster's voice echoes, "By authority of Inquisitor Vale and blessing of Admiral Quarren, Judgment 742 is released. May the Emperor's wrath be delivered swiftly." The massive clamps release. For 3 seconds silence. Then engines ignite, white-hot exhaust turning night to day across the fleet. The light is so intense unaugmented humans must shield their eyes. The torpedo accelerates toward the planet with implacable purpose, entering atmosphere, surface heating to glowing metal that leaves ionized trails. At 10,000 meters, the warhead activates. At ground impact, it fulfills sacred purpose. In bomber designation Theta 9's cockpit, 3 tech priests maintain vigil orbiting the dying world. Their bomber delivered its payload, atmospheric incinerators that burn through Typhon Primaris' oxygen like acid through flesh. Now they observe, recording data for Martian archives. Tech Priest Gamma 7 interfaces with the sensor array, consciousness splitting between biological brain and ship's machine spirit. Through this union, he experiences planetary death as pure data, temperatures climbing beyond survival thresholds, atmospheric composition shifting from breathable to toxic, seismic activity increasing to civilization-ending levels. He chants the litany of observation in binary. Blessed is the data revealing truth. Holy is measurement confirming destruction. Sacred is knowledge purchased with extinction. His fellows join, voices creating binary harmonics that please the bomber's machine spirit. Through the viewport, Typhon Primaris presents apocalyptic grandeur, surface glowing orange with volcanic activity, ash clouds rising to space's edge, electrical storms raging across dead continents. To the tech priest, this is not horror, it is data, information about weapon effectiveness, combustion patterns, tectonic responses, each reading cross-referenced with previous operations, creating an ever-growing database of annihilation the Mechanicus maintains with religious fervor. But beneath binary prayers, something stirs in Gamma 7's partially biological consciousness, a memory of who he was before augmentation, a boy who dreamed of exploration, not extinction. Hive Primaris was once home to 3 billion souls, a vertical city stretching from crust to upper atmosphere, a monument to humanity's ability to build empires from steel and faith. Its spires housed noble families whose lineages reached back to the age of apostasy. Its industrial sectors produced weapons for 17 Imperial Guard regiments. Its cathedrals hosted pilgrimages from across the sector. Now it burns with light visible from orbit. The atmospheric incinerators reached Hive Primaris 17 minutes after deployment, igniting the city's oxygen supply and transforming the entire structure into a funeral pyre reaching towards space. Flames climb the hive spires with hungry purpose, consuming level after level with methodical efficiency. From Fleet Admiral Quarren's observation deck, the hive resembles a massive torch, Gothic architecture silhouetted against flames burning in colors no natural fire produces. Heat so intense, it creates its own weather patterns, firestorms spiraling upward in the helical patterns following the hive's geometry. The city's population already perished in viral bombardment. Corpses now fuel for flames feeding on organic matter with insatiable hunger. The spires begin falling at hour 7. First to collapse, the Cathedral of the Emperor's Ascension, standing 4,000 years. Its stained glass windows explode from heat pressure, colored glass falling like rain through flame. The cathedral's bells toll once as structure buckles, final sound echoing across the dead city like a funeral dirge. One by one, the spires fall. Noble quarters collapse into industrial sectors into the underhive, the underhive into bedrock itself, creating a crater visible from space for millennia. By hour 12, nothing remains but a glowing. Fleet Admiral Marcus Quarren kneels in the darkened command bridge, hands clasped before him in prayer he no longer believes. The bridge's observation dome fractured during the final bombardment phase, not from enemy fire, but from the shockwave of cyclonic detonations powerful enough to crack continents. Now ash falls through the broken glass like grey snow, settling on his armor in patterns that resemble funeral shrouds. He prays not for forgiveness. He knows the Emperor offers none for those who willingly commit such acts. He prays for strength to continue, for the ability to wake tomorrow and issue similar orders if required, for the capacity to remain human while performing inhuman duties. Around him, command deck officers maintain respectful distance, understanding their admiral wrestles with burdens they cannot share. This is the 6th time he has authorized planetary annihilation. The 6th time he has calculated that billions must die so trillions might live. Each time, the decision becomes easier. Each time, a piece of his soul calcifies into something harder and colder. He remembers the first Exterminatus clearly, how he spent weeks in meditation, torturing himself with scenarios where fewer died. Now he completes the calculation in minutes. The efficiency with which he condemns worlds terrifies him more than the act itself. Through the broken dome, Typhon Primaris presents its final configuration, a sphere of cooling magma wrapped in ash clouds, already beginning its transformation from living world to dead monument. 15 billion voices silenced, 15 billion prayers unanswered, 15 billion souls whose sacrifice purchased humanity's survival for perhaps another generation. Admiral Quarren rises slowly, ash falling from his armor like grey tears. He will file his report. He will receive new orders. And somewhere in the galaxy's darkness, another world begins its slide toward corruption. Deep within the inquisitorial fortress on Titan, interrogator Malchus burns the true records of Typhon Primaris. Official histories will record a world lost to Tyranid invasion. A tragedy, but not a crime. The truth that the Imperium murdered 15 billion loyal citizens because corruption spread too far to contain will disappear into smoke and ash. The documents burn in an ornate brazier blessed by Inquisitor Vale himself. Each page contains testimonies, tactical reports, corruption metrics that justified Exterminatus. Malchus feeds them to flames one at a time, watching centuries of documentation reduced to ash. This is standard procedure. The Imperium cannot allow its citizens to know how often it employs its final sanction, cannot permit subjects to understand that loyalty offers no protection against administrative convenience. Better they believe Xenos invasions and demon incursions claim worlds, external threats that justify internal vigilance. Better they never learn that the Imperium's greatest weapon is turned inward as often as outward. The brazier's flames cast dancing shadows across vault walls, lined with similar burned records. 17 other worlds in this sector alone have received Exterminatus in the past century. Their true fates are known only to inquisitors, who authorize the orders, and interrogators who erase the evidence. Malchus completes his task with practiced efficiency, watching the last document curl and blacken. Typhon Primaris joins the ranks of officially non-existent tragedies, worlds that died not because they fell to the enemy, but because saving them proved inconvenient. He seals the vault, recording in the Inquisition's secret archives. Typhon Primaris, population 15 billion. Cause of death, necessary. Imperial authorization, absolute. Truth, status, erased. Typhon Primaris remains in orbit around its sun, but it is no longer a world in any meaningful sense. The planet's crust has fractured along tectonic boundaries, revealing magma chambers that glow like infected wounds. Half the sphere catches distant sunlight, illuminating a geography transformed by extinction. Mountain ranges that never existed before, ocean basins boiled dry, atmospheric patterns forever altered by the chemical residue of viral bombardment. The planet's day-night terminator cuts across this devastation like a surgical scar, dividing the lit hemisphere's visible horror from the shadowed hemisphere's concealed nightmare. From this orbital distance, individual cities cannot be distinguished. Hive Primaris is merely one crater among thousands. The Cathedral of the Emperor's Ascension, which stood for 4 millennia, leaves no trace visible from space. 15 billion human lives reduced to geological footnotes. Slight variations in surface temperature where population centers once generated urban heat islands. Fleet Admiral Quarren's armada begins departure procedures, leaving behind a single monitoring station to ensure no corruption survives in the planet's cooling crust. The station's crew of 12 will spend 5 years orbiting this dead world, recording seismic data an atmospheric composition, confirming that nothing, absolutely nothing, remains alive. They volunteered for this duty. Some seek penance for surviving when billions died. Others simply cannot bear to return to living worlds after witnessing extinction on this scale. The Imperium's bureaucracy will classify Typhon Primaris as perditus, a world lost. Its tithe obligations transferred to neighboring systems. Its population records are sealed. Within a generation, most Imperial citizens will forget it ever existed. Within a century, even its name will fade from common knowledge. Only the Inquisition will remember, another entry in the endless ledger of necessary murders. The cruiser Eternal Vigil holds geosynchronous orbit above what was once Hive Primaris' location. Its primary systems are powered down. Only life support and observation equipment remain active. At the observation window, Remembrancer Lucia maintains her vigil, documenting the aftermath for Imperial archives that will never be made public. She was assigned to Fleet Admiral Quarren's armada to record the campaign against Typhon Primaris' chaos corruption. She documented 3 months of increasingly desperate battles against cult uprisings, demon manifestations, reality itself unraveling in corrupted sectors. She believed she was chronicling humanity's triumph over darkness. She did not know the Inquisition had already condemned the entire world. When the virus bombs began falling, she understood immediately that everything she witnessed, every heroic stand, every tactical victory, every Imperial citizen's sacrifice had been rendered meaningless by a decision made in secret months before. She remains at this window because she cannot bear to look away, cannot permit herself the comfort of forgetting what the Imperium is capable of. Below her, a dead world completes its rotation, presenting the same devastation from different angles. Proof that extinction is absolute, that nothing survived, that the Imperium's final solution leaves no exceptions. Her assignment requires her to write the official history, a sanitized narrative of Xenos invasion, an unavoidable tragedy. But in her private journal, she writes truth. We did this. Not chaos, not Xenos. US, the Imperium of Man murdered 15 billion of its own citizens because saving them proved inconvenient to our larger strategic calculations. We call it Exterminatus. We call it necessary. We call it holy. But strip away the theological justifications and bureaucratic euphemisms, and it remains what it has always been, genocide elevated to sacred duty. She will never submit her private journal to official archives. It will disappear with her when her service ends. But she writes anyway, because someone must bear witness to what was done here, even if that witness changes nothing. On Typhon Primaris' cooling surface, partially buried in ash that was once human beings, lies a fragment of an Imperial aquila, the two-headed eagle that symbolizes humanity's dominion over the galaxy. It once crowned the cathedral of the Emperor's Ascension, a golden icon visible from orbit, reflecting sunlight like a promise of eternal protection. Now it rests half buried in grey dust, one eagle head exposed to fading light, the other concealed beneath the ashes of 15 billion faithful who died praying for the Emperor's deliverance. The irony is almost too perfect to be accidental. The symbol of Imperial authority buried in the remains of those who trusted that authority most completely. The icon of protection half concealed by the ashes of the protected. The promise of the Emperor's eternal vigilance obscured by evidence of his ultimate indifference. Fading light catches the exposed eagle head's eye, a ruby inset that somehow survived the firestorms and tectonic catastrophes. For a moment, it gleams like a tear, as if the Emperor himself weeps for what has been done in his name. Or perhaps it gleams like an accusation, asking the question no Inquisitor wants to answer. What is the cost of purity? If maintaining human civilization's sanctity requires murdering billions of humans, can that civilization still claim any moral authority? If the price of preventing chaos corruption is becoming as ruthlessly efficient at extinction as chaos itself, have we truly won or merely changed which darkness we serve? The light fades, the ruby dims, the Aquila returns to shadow, its accusation unanswered because there are no answers in the 41st millennium, only terrible choices made by fallible humans wielding absolute power. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and sometimes the enemy we fight with such fervor wears our own face. Sometimes the greatest threat to humanity comes not from Xenos or demons, but from humanity's own willingness to sacrifice everything human in pursuit of an ideal that grows more distant with each world we burn.